On your first day as a new recruit for the Royal Waitors, you're directed not to the practice fields, but to a library. The only consolation you may find here is that despite the age of some of the tomes, there's not a speck of dust anywhere. The current father of history abhors such filth. You and your fellow recruits are directed to a long row of tables, each topped with a thick leather-bound book, titled Advanced Methods in Waiting, by Leighton Sadov. You're sat down and told to read the first chapter, from the beginning. The words are cracked with time, but you can scan them well enough. They read, "It's the master's folly to forget what one learned as a child, thus I start from the beginning." You may wonder why one of the family of history has written an instruction book on waiting, and the answer is simple. It is a touch of the holiest of divines upon us, and so it is my purpose here to record the best methods of its use. Dinkletsu has granted us both weight and the power to alter it at will. Such a skill deserves humility, though neither should you cast it away. Whoever you are, remember that a god gave you this power. This book should not be read in isolation. It requires practice. And though I have provided exercises at the end of each chapter, I think it necessary you be supervised by a skilled instructor, especially for the later chapters where simple mistakes could cause serious injury. And for reasons I will elaborate on later, do not practice too intensely. Despite how complex later methods may seem, they all draw on the deceptive simplicity of the two ways we as humans are able to affect weight. The first is changing the strength of weight. I've seen children lightening themselves before their first steps, so chances are you can as well. Less obvious for practical use is strengthening your weight, so if you figured out the methods that involve that, you're a step of the way to mastery. The second aspect of our skill is changing the direction of weight. It's a smooth rotation, unlike what some beginners try, enforcing jerky movements. As with all things, grace and control hold power over strength. In their wisdom, Dinkletsu made it more difficult to alter direction than the amount of our weight, else we would lose half of all beginners to the deadly allure of flight. Even so, a warning is needed. Do not attempt flight until after chapter 15, and only then under the careful eye of one proficient in the art. You can affect the weights of other objects, though it is more difficult than your own, and only in extreme situations should you alter the weight of another person, for to do so would be as evil as it is difficult. Now, to delve into some basic consequences of our power. This chapter won't have detail on how to perform these feats, it simply serves as a glimpse into what is possible. There are a couple immediate results of lightening weight. The most obvious is allowing yourself to jump higher, and if you have done so, you will have learned quickly to keep yourself light the whole time to avoid injury. Making heavy objects easier to carry is half of how the city is able to run and build itself, though there are more interesting uses you may have seen. You will have seen such feats anytime you enter the arena of weight. What child hasn't dreamed of one day wielding a wedge with skill, or winning the Greater Tälydnir Championship for Tälydnir? You can float effortlessly in water, throw great distances, and slow falling objects. If you lighten yourself enough to achieve weightlessness, you can sit in the wind itself. An important limitation I've seen masters forget at times is that lessening weight does not lessen inertia. A falling block of stone moving fast enough will crush anyone underneath, no matter how light it may be. A massive object always takes as much strength to swing as it does to stop. The same is true for strengthening weight. A heavy feather is just as easy to move back and forth as a normal feather. If you made a feather weigh as much as an iron bar and dropped it, the force of its landing would be less than the bars. I should stop hinting and go directly into the uses of strengthening weight. Making yourself harder to move is good for a fight if you're on the ground. The heavier you are, the greater friction becomes. Swinging down a heavy wedge will cause far more damage than normal. The same applies for unarmed combat, though with that there's focus that must be spent on not breaking your hands. If you're pulling an object to your hand, making it heavier would bring it to you faster and with greater force. Generally, strengthening weight is good for faster, more powerful movements. As such, greater care should be taken with such methods, else you risk injury. Just making yourself heavier can be dangerous if done for too long. Nevzetsu did not make our bones able to withstand ultra-human weights. With most every weighting method, there are consequences that at least equal the benefits, if not outweigh them. The most obvious effect of rotating weight is flight. However much you wish to dream, do not think of that as the most common or even most useful rotation method. The elevators of the Evertower only work because of rotation, and similar platforms are used daily in construction. You can push or pull objects from a distance, run faster, and swing tools with more power. So even the lowly miner can benefit greatly from some level of study in rotation. And yet, however useful all these methods may seem, they only become greater when you combine rotation and strength manipulation. Those methods grow exponentially more difficult though, and you may be surprised to learn that flight is not the most complex method one can perform, which is why there still lie 3 more chapters after flight is dealt with. The outer reaches of weighting are purely theoretical, limited both by the skill required and the ultra-human power required, though I strongly recommend you still read the final chapter for reasons that will become clear as you read along. An important note: weight latches to all the body at once, not the center of the chest, as some believe. A simple disproof of that is to hold your arm out, relax it completely, and watch it fall. The chest is simply where Denklitsu's power siphons through us, as those of you who have felt the rot surely know. For as long as you live, you must remember this, even should you not read further than this chapter, for if you forget, it could lead to great bodily harm. That being noted, I should also discuss the rot. However faint of heart you may be, it is necessary you read this. I will make it as brief as it can be. The rot occurs when you do not respect the limits of your body. Weighting too much at once will first raise heat in the core of your ribcage. The only sensible act from here would be to stop immediately and rest. But for those more foolish, only pain awaits. The skin grows clammy. You become soaked in sweat and grow weak. The heat ignites into what feels an inferno. The lungs become a furnace. Fire leaches into your blood and racks you with such pain that you are bedridden for weeks, if you ever get up again. Though immediate death is exceedingly rare, the rot is called such because it kills slowly. Through prolonged waiting, over years, your body fails piece by piece until you reach your 6th year, and it already grows difficult to walk without a cane. Breathing becomes a labor, and your very blood will feel as though it is scraping through your veins with every heartbeat. Once you are confined to your bed, only days remain. This is a bleak picture, but an honest one, and is why the glorious life of a waiter does not last long. Do not be overzealous with your waiting. I have known waiters who looked like others twice their age. Prioritize skill over raw power. A touch of delicate mastery can extend your life by years. Exercises. Even if you feel yourself a master, take an hour today to lightly test and play around with the individual components of your weighting. Do not attempt to mix magnitude and direction. Keep it simple, and you will be surprised with how much you can learn through experimentation. The next time you see one of the royal waiters or go to a Tälydnir game, pay close attention to how they move. Notice how smoothly they fly, and let that be inspiration for your practice, even should you never achieve such mastery. Find a sheet and record all you have learned as of yet since reading this chapter. Do the same for future chapters. The study of knowledge can be just as rewarding as physical study, however rarely in the case of waiting. And thus does the chapter end. Thanks for watching this far. The end of the video is near, but I implore you to keep watching, for coming up is the Corner for Cool Creations. For this iteration of the CFCC, I just want to recommend the entire catalog of songs on the channel Pilotredsky. PRS, along with being the guy who made Garfield, also makes some of the best songs to melt into I've ever heard. They're perfect for writing and world building too, which is why I put them in a playlist of music to write and world build to. They have some of the peak attributes I attach to my favorite pieces of art. Unabashed creativity and a selfness that's immediately recognizable. Go listen to Pilot, right now. Just do it, that's an order. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you have a lovely day, and make sure to absorb the world some today. Farewell.